Okay, so welcome back to the next video, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. So today's topic is going to be this right here. A little bit of a controversial title. We'll get to that. I call it the Sloth Song of Shoulder Satans. Okay, now, what is the Sloth Song of Shoulder Satans? Well, the Sloth Song of Shoulder Satans basically is your brain's its tendency here to do what? To make you want to be slothful, to make you not want to spend energy, to make you want to just sit around or not put too much effort into things. Now, where does this come from? I'll show you right here. Here's you, okay? You are right here, okay? And let's say you have a shoulder angel and devil. I use the word Satan here because, for one, it's a bit of a buzzword, yeah, but it's not really that as much as it is the alliteration. If you look at this title, Sloth Song of Shoulder Satans, it kind of rolls off the tongue, and it sounds kind of silly, right? A shoulder Satan. Instead of saying shoulder devil, it'll make it easier for you to remember. I want to go ahead and preface this whole thing by saying this is not any sort of religious discussion or anything like that. Take any kid's show, or back in the day you watch cartoons and stuff, and then here's you, or here's somebody in a in a situation. It's usually one that's moral, but it's not always moral. And what happens? Okay, well, you have to make a decision on something, and two dudes pop up, right? You guys probably remember this. You got a little shoulder angel and a shoulder devil. So we're gonna write in red here. This is the little shoulder devil. Okay, I'll give him some horns. All right, yeah, man. These are some badass horns, dude. Anyways, that's him. He looks a little bit like a bunny rabbit, but we're gonna go with it. And then what else do you have? Well, let's use, I don't know, green is probably fine. Then you have the shoulder, right, angel, and they have a little halo over their head. That's what that is supposed to represent. Okay, anyways, so this will make it easier for you to remember. And what do they do? In whatever context that you're seeing them in whatever cartoon, it's usually in cartoons where they're like, okay, should I help my friend or should I serve myself or something? And then poof, these dudes pop up and they start advising you on what it is to do. Everybody knows what that is, okay? Now, in this specific instance here, we're talking not necessarily about something ethical or not, although it can get into that. We're talking about slothful activity in general. One of the worst things that you can do is become slothful, because slothful, it's easy to, just be like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, and procrastinate, or, oh, I don't really need to do that, or maybe you need to, I don't know, eat a little healthier. Maybe you need to work out a little, go to the gym, or maybe walk around your neighborhood or something. You're like, I don't really want to do it. I'd rather sit on my couch and watch Netflix or whatever. See, that right there is what the shoulder devil or shoulder Satan in this example would tell you to do. Okay, I'm gonna try to put a little bit better horns on this guy. That looks a little bit better. Okay, so what's going to happen? What happens every single time? It's like, okay, I have this project due, or I have this homework due, or I need to go out and walk for 30 minutes every day, or I need to get on top of my taxes, or whatever it is. But then, what happens? You got all the little distractions happening all around you, like, come and sit on the couch, watch TV, watch Netflix, scroll through your phone, social media, or whatever the case is. Call somebody, text somebody. All right, do it later. This right here, this guy, this is what he is saying. Let's give him a little thought bubble here. He's like, procrastinate, right? He's like, procrastinate, do it later, and stuff like that. He's saying these sorts of things to you, and that's the song. This is the sloth song of this guy. Now, I'm not saying that there is literally a little shoulder Satan and a shoulder angel on you, but you think in your mind, don't you go there every time? Think about it. You go there and you're like, I could do this. I just really don't want to. I don't really want to get up and do that. I just came home from work or whatever. I know I said I would, but I'll try it later when I have more energy. All of those thoughts come from this dude, and all the, yeah, but I really got to, I should do it or whatever, come from this one, right? And this is just basically going on in your head all the time. Why does this happen? Well, if you think about it scientifically, it's because there is no angel and devil or anything like that in the traditional sense. This is just an illustration. It's a metaphor of what your brain is doing. Your brain is always running these, anything that comes through your life. any experience, like, oh, this is an experience, I'm seeing this person, or I need to call them, or I need to take care of this, or any of those things to where you don't want to do it and stuff, it runs it through certain parameters, and it's like, okay, we don't want to do it. Why? Because it costs energy. It costs energy to get up and, I don't know, move around and walk around the neighborhood, or like cook your own meal. That's another one. A lot of people want to get takeout or something. You know why? Because it's simple. It's easy. You don't have to do as much. Beware convenience, by the way. Convenience is one of the things that is a very Sloth song thing to do. But the Sloth song itself is this dude. All right, your little shoulder Satan, he's like, yeah, do it later and stuff. It's not necessarily unethical, right? It can get into those things, but this is more of your own production. Every time something comes into your awareness, or your brain's awareness, it runs it through this. And it's like, how can we try not to do it? And your brain will send this dude out to you, right? Metaphorically speaking. All right, and whisper in your ear. He'll sing you a little lullaby. That's why I said it's the Sloth song. Sloth being the act and the behavior, basically, or the state of being slothful or lazy, or I don't want to do anything, right? You've probably heard here, I'll write it up here. Let's do it not in that color. We'll use this, it's fine. You've probably heard this before. Whether or not you're religious, but that idle, right? Hands do what? Make the devil's work. Everybody has probably heard this, whether or not you are religious or spiritual or any of that. This talk isn't about those things. I chose this title because I wanted to give this illustration, which everybody can recall. You know how I like to present. If you're new here, this is how I like to present ideas. We're not going to go through a PowerPoint or anything. I'm going to put up these little scenarios that you can recall from being a child or something, or anyone can understand. Anyone remembers seeing on a cartoon a little shoulder angel and a shoulder devil pop up. All right? And when I say any of these things, it's not from a religious point of view. Not that there's anything necessarily wrong with that. If that helps, then that's fine. All right, this is saying that, oh, remember that? Back in the cartoons and stuff, your brain is doing this constantly. And idle hands make the devil's work. What that means is idle hands being slothful hands. Idle, meaning they're sitting there, they're not doing anything. Or more specifically, they're not doing anything productive. Your hands might be scrolling through something on your phone. It might be playing a video game or any of those things. Not saying there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but each and every one of us know. We feel the lullaby. We feel the seduction of the shoulder Satan, right? Because he's giving you the Sloth song. He's like, nah, man, do it later. Procrastinate. Have somebody else do it. That's a bigger thing. Or like, oh, you've already worked really hard. It's time for a break. No matter whether any of those messages are truthful or not, that's not really about whether they're true or not. They might be. It's about your brain is sending this dude out there basically to stop you from doing too many things. Why? Because it wants to save energy. Like we talk about a lot on this channel, tens of thousands of years and maybe even hundreds of thousands of years of human beings. Energy was extremely finite, just like it is now, but it was even more valuable. Why? Because if you did not have energy, you might not be able to escape something that was going to kill you. Right? Or you might not have enough energy to do what? To hunt an animal that you're going to have to eat in order to survive and not die. So your brain was like, whoa, dude, energy. Energy is finite. It is valuable. It's like one of the most valuable resources you have, basically. We don't want to be doing anything else like taking walks and making complex decisions and talking to so-and-so or making those phone calls we know we're supposed to be making, or finishing up that project or homework or whatever it is for you. You can just substitute whatever your thing is in here. I know that I can. And your brain doesn't want to do any of that. It's like, no. Because it still thinks that you lived tens of thousands of years ago, and it's not very unlikely. In fact, it's very likely that a tiger is going to jump out of the bushes at you, and you don't need to have used your energy on doing things that's going to make this dude happy, right? That's going to be like, yeah, be productive and get out there and move and work on your job and work on school and put more effort in, right? This is what this part of you, that side of you, right, is wanting. And even you want this too. But then what happens? It gets there and you're like, I'm like, I don't have the motivation. I know I should do it and stuff, but I don't know. That comes from this. This right here represents that side of your brain that's like, yeah, you don't want to do it because if you do it, you might die. It is literally telling you that because for tens of thousands of years, that was actually the case. You never knew when there was going to be a predator. You never knew when there was going to be a stampede of wildebeests or something that you needed to get out of there. You don't need to be kind of tired and brain fog because you've been making complex decisions, because you've been, I don't know, working out a little extra hard. Working out is not something that people did until pretty recently, actually. Not in the traditional sense. Like, your working out was your just day-to-day stuff. Humans walked like 15,000 to 20,000 steps a day just because that's what they did. It wasn't like, okay, we got to go out there and I got to get my steps in today. Nobody thought in those terms. It's just what happened because they had to track animals. They had to go and gather. They had to survey the environment and know what was out there. If they didn't do those things, they died. Right? If you don't get 15 to 20,000 steps in every day, you're not going to die. You know how you can prove it? You haven't been getting that in every day for most of your life, probably. Okay, think about it. 99% of people, at least in very developed places, sit way too much. They say sitting is the new smoking and all that stuff. But you probably get, 3, 4, maybe 5,000 steps in. The average person, it's like 5,000, right around there. And you were supposed to, they say, oh, you should get your 10,000 steps in, right? Well, this dude is going to be like, I don't want to do that. It's not because he's right or wrong or fair or good or evil. That's not what this is about. This is your brain saying, hey, we don't want to do that stuff because back in the day, like I said, you didn't say, I want to take 10,000 steps a day. It just happened. It was a necessity in order to survive, right? So when you tell your brain that, your brain thinks you're already taking all those steps because that's just what's normal to it. They're like, hey, remember all the other stuff that you're already doing? Because so many generations of your ancestors were doing that. And they say, scientifically, you have practically the same brain as they did. They might as well have lifted it out of those people and put it directly in you because of the way that genetics work and evolution works. It changes very little over just, 10,000 years, 20,000 years, 100,000 years even. It's really not much of a change at all. So your brain still thinks that, hey man, we're out here walking 15 to 20,000 steps already. Why would you want to go and walk 10,000 steps? That's a waste of energy. We already did what we needed to do, and we got all the animals and the food, and we surveyed the environment, and we walked to, if we need to wander somewhere else in search of food and shelter or whatever, we did that today already. So when you get home after your hard days of work, and you're thinking like, man, I'm kind of beat, man. I had to make all these complex decisions. My boss wants me to do this. I have to find out how to make this more efficient and get these things done through this deadline. Or you're at school and you're learning new things. Remember that this here, your brain, and these two dudes kind of represent your brain. All right, they use a lot of your energy. We'll do black this way. They use this much. They say 20% of your energy. And they represent your brain. Remember, your brain is a very expensive, highly expensive piece of equipment for your body to run. They say it weighs like 3%, I believe. It's not 20%, I know that for sure. I think it's like 3% of your body weight is your brain, but 20% of the energy that you use is just from your brain. And it's the more of these things that you have to do. So the more that your little shoulder Satan singing you that sloth song, okay, hey, be lazy. The brain wants to be lazy because you might die if you don't have energy. If you burn all your energy out, you don't have food tomorrow. That happens, right? It used to. You never knew. Sometimes the next day, you wouldn't know if you were going to eat the next day or the next 2 or 3 days or something. So every single thing that your brain is wanting you to be lazy at or procrastinate, like, oh, I got to do that and stuff. This dude right here is singing you that song because he's like, hey, because it costs a lot of energy to be making those decisions and doing stuff outside of our normal routine. Plus, you have the normal routine, right? You got whatever you got going on. So, you know how people kind of get ahead in life is they don't listen to this, all right? Or they don't listen to it as much. And they're like, no, we're going to put a little bit more work in, and that's how we're going to get ahead. Right? Everybody, generally speaking, has the same 24 hours in a day. And if you think about it logically, you should only have about 16 because 8 of those hours should be dedicated to sleep. By the way, if you're not getting enough good sleep and stuff, that'll really, like this stuff, it intensifies it. This dude is going to speak even louder. He's going to hold a megaphone up to your ear. You won't even hear this one that's trying to improve your life. I should have drew wings on him. This is way too late. Let me see if I can put some wings on this dude. Ooh. Something like that. I don't know. So I mean, the shoulder Satan would have wings too, but it would be like bat wings, right, or whatever. He's got the horns, so we know who we're talking about here. So anyway, this is like the sloth song of shoulder Satans. Think about in your own life, where does this apply, right? I come up with this creative and sort of catchy and even a little controversial title here because it will help you remember, right? It'll help you remember that. This is a thing. You'll be like, okay, what was that thing that I heard? Artistic devices in like writing and stuff, like alliteration, like all these S's in here, make things easier to remember. If I thought about it longer, I'd probably try to make it rhyme too, because by the way, rhyming makes things easier to remember. That's why when you're in elementary school and stuff, and they come up with all these songs to help you learn, it works very well because it engages more parts of your brain, and when your brain creates memories and it has to remember things, it pulls it from different areas. They say there's not like one little file, like on your computer, that there's this little file inside of your hard drive or whatever, and that bit of code right there, that's your memory. They say the brain, what it does is it takes it from several places, and the more places that you have it, the easier it is to reconstruct a memory and therefore create habits, create a memory of something you want to learn, like your multiplication tables, or I don't know, whenever Christopher Columbus got to the New World and stuff like that, all these little and even your ABCs and stuff, there's some rhyming that goes in there. A lot of the letters rhyme too. That's why if you ever work in business or maybe in the military or something, they have phonetic code words, right? They say A is in alpha, B is in Bravo, C is in Charlie, because A and B, C, D, E, B, C, D, and E all end in that sound E, right? And then that will confuse your brain. So you're like, okay, that's over at point B or something. They're like, did you say B or C or E? But nobody's going to confuse Bravo and Charlie. The reason that stuff came about is kind of the same as this, because your brain will see something similar in all of its different structures, right, that you learned it from, and it will pull them. They say that your brain, the way memories work is they're not exact replicas. It's not like if you copy a video from your phone to your computer. It's not the same thing. Your brain is more creative, but it's able to reconstruct things better when you have different parts of your brain active. So that's one reason I put this kind of title here, because the S's, that sound repeating, that alliteration is what they call that helps a little. Rhyming would help a little. Something like a shoulder Satan, that's kind of funny. Just that right there is alliteration. What is easier to remember, shoulder devil or shoulder Satan? A little bit easier is shoulder Satan. Because why? Because it's the same thing we're pretty much talking about, but just because you got those two S's back to back, by the way. We got a little bit off topic there, but even that kind of is about this. Because why? Think about it this way. If you're being sung the sloth song, right? And they're like, oh, things are hard. You don't want to do this. You want to be slothful and a little lazy and stuff because your brain wants to save energy so that you don't die and stuff. One way to get around that is to make learning things or processes simpler than whatever it is. If somebody just gives you a bunch of information in school or something, and they're just like, okay, here's a PowerPoint. This means this, this means this, this means this, this means this. And you will probably remember 10% of it, 20% of it, maybe. But if they do things like this, like alliteration, if they do rhyming, if they draw pictures and stuff, that doesn't happen enough, I don't think, in school. Now, these might not be the best pictures, all right? But there's still something there. Just because there were some pictures here, you're going to remember it just a bit more. And this is how you get over the sloth song. This is how you do it. One of them is you just repetition. It's like you just got to do it, and you just got to keep doing it and doing it and doing it, even though it's hard. all right? But to make that hard a little easier, you make it easier for your brain to interact with it by using different parts. Nobody likes staring at a huge PowerPoint presentation and taking an hour or two to go through that thing line by line, how we did in a lot of school, and even that happens today still. Have you ever been in some sort of job or corporate meeting or something to where it's like, okay, now this slide, they have a little clicker, like, okay, now this slide, what we're going to do is we want to increase revenue over the next year by this amount or something like that. And then they go through those things and they're kind of dull. If they came up with something that's more like this, not that I'm perfect, I don't do it perfectly, but they came up with something that's a little bit more like this. And if you've seen my other videos, the kind of way that I teach things, it's because those little shortcuts, like this alliteration here that I put, that's a little shortcut for your brain. It's a little like, it's interest, it's novelty. It's kind of like, there's such a thing called novelty bias, by the way. And your brain is more likely to remember. It's like, oh yeah, shoulder Satan. It's like a shoulder devil, but it's funny. It sounds funny. A little shoulder Satan, right? Might be a little humor in there. Humor, by the way, is a good one. If you can make things kind of funny, that's much more, because it engages more emotions. This engages different emotions like mystery and novelty and stuff like that, and then humor, and then this right here engages that alliteration, which is, I'm not exactly sure what you would call that. Not necessarily an emotion, but it's a different artistic device that makes things a little easier to remember. By the way, in the subject of writing, if you ever think about nursery rhymes, and even, check this out, like even in little kids' stories where there's like a witch, they might be evil or they might be good, but they'll cast a spell. What will they do? They'll say something like, here and there, like this money flows, and everywhere it ends up, it grows and grows. I don't know, I just made that up, right? But that would be like a spell to like draw money to you or something. If in a little kid's story there was a character who wanted to and they paid a witch, they're like, okay, and then they sang that, whatever I just said. I'm not gonna be able to say it again. You can rewind this if you need to, but what I just said, it kind of rhymed. So it makes it easier to remember, right? It kind of tickles your brain's fancy a little. And when you do that, when you add some novelty in there and a little bit of intrigue and surprise, it quiets this dude down a lot. He's just like, kind of confuses him. He's like, okay, maybe this isn't too bad. I'm at least entertained, so that's good, right? So anyways, that's basically what I wanted to get into here, and that's one of the ways to get out of that Sloth song and to kind of start listening to. You shut this dude up to, if you can entertain him good enough, and he's like, okay, maybe this isn't such a bad idea. I don't mind this Sloth song of shoulder Satans, that's kind of funny, or like the little pictures here. If I just wrote just a bunch of words up here, or just a bunch of statistics, that would not have been as memorable as this is. And your shoulder Satan would have been going off like, hey man, you're learning stuff here. We don't like this. This looks like a PowerPoint or something. I mean, it might still look kind of like that. I'm not perfect. I'm working on that like every single day, right? But that's a good way right there. Make it a little novel. That's what novelty bias basically is, by the way. The cognitive biases that all work in your brain. This dude is basically, he's kind of using all of those to get you to spend less energy. Sometimes it's a good thing. Like, you don't want to have to think about some things that you do. You would rather use the script and the laziness of it. Be like, okay, no. I already went through understanding how to do all of this. This is the choice that I want. And you just choose that one every time. That's fine. All right, that's when it works for good. All right, but this dude over here wants you to expand your mind, and it's everything that you want still, too. You're like, yeah, I want to learn a new language, or play an instrument, I want to lose some weight, or I want to gain some weight and some muscle or something, or whatever it is that you want to do. That's this side. And then this side comes in, it's like, yeah, but it costs energy, we don't really want to do that. Right? So, anyways, this has been your presentation on the Sloth song of shoulder Satans. Hope you have liked it, and we will see you in the next one. Thank you.